The great station called Convergence Prime floated in the empty space between three galaxies. It was neutral ground. Sacred ground. For 200 years, the powerful species of the known universe had gathered here to talk instead of fight. Today was the 47th Peace Summit, and 12 delegations were arriving to discuss borders, trade, and the future of civilized space. Commander Tyke of the Valoran Empire stood in the greeting hall, with his arms crossed over his scaled chest. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with dark green skin and eyes like burning copper. Behind him stood 20 of his death guard, the most feared soldiers in Valoran space. Their black armor gleamed under the station lights. Their weapons hummed with quiet power. Tyke watched the other delegations arrive with a small smile on his face. The syndicate came with their psychic enforcers, pale creatures who could kill with a thought. The Bloodborne Pact brought warriors covered in ritual scars, each one a killer many times over. The Celestine Union arrived in robes of white and gold. But even they had soldiers waiting in their ships. This was how civilized species attended peace talks. With strength, with power, with a promise that any betrayal would be answered with blood. High Speaker Mora of the Syndicate walked slowly to stand beside Tyke. She was old, her insectoid body showing the marks of many years. 4 of her 6 eyes were clouded with age, but the remaining 2 were sharp and watchful. "The humans are late," she said. Her voice was like dry leaves rubbing together. Tyke made a sound of disgust. "Humans, the youngest species to reach the stars. They barely deserve a seat at this table." "And yet they have one," Mora replied. "Their territory grows every year. Their population spreads like fire. Perhaps we should not dismiss them so quickly?" "They're soft," Tyke said. "I have read the reports. They fight among themselves constantly, yet they have no true warrior culture. No honor in battle. They are merchants and farmers who somehow stumbled into space travel." Mora said nothing. She had read different reports. Classified ones. Reports that made her old heart beat faster with something close to fear. But she kept her thoughts to herself. The human shuttle docked at Port 7. It was a small vessel, simple and gray, with no weapons visible on its hull. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Park Jin-ho stepped out first. He was a man of middle years, with black hair turning gray at the temples and a face that revealed nothing. He wore a simple gray suit with no medals, no decorations. No signs of rank except for a small Earth emblem on his collar. Behind him came 4 others. Lieutenant Yuna was young, perhaps 25, with sharp eyes that moved constantly around the room. Dr. Heian walked with the careful steps of a scholar, attention seemingly lost in her own thoughts. 2 other aides followed, equally unremarkable. 5 humans. No weapons. No armor. No soldiers. The greeting hall fell silent. Then Commander Tyke began to laugh. It was a loud, harsh sound that echoed off the metal walls. His death guard joined him, their laughter like the barking of predators. Other delegations watched with interest. Some smiled. Others whispered behind their hands. "This is the human delegation," Tyke said loudly enough for everyone to hear. 5 diplomats in sleeping clothes? "Where are your warriors, Ambassador? Where are your ships?" Park Jin-ho stopped walking. He looked at Tyke with calm, patient eyes, like a teacher watching a child throw a tantrum. "We are here for peace talks, Commander," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. "We brought what was needed for peace. Nothing more? Nothing more?" Tyke stepped closer, using his height to tower over the human. "You insult this gathering. You insult every species here. We bring our strength to show our commitment. You bring weakness." "We bring ourselves," Jin-ho replied. "That is enough." Tyke leaned down until his face was close to the ambassador's. His breath was hot and smelled of copper. "Your species is a joke," he whispered. "You have no military worth fearing. You have no weapons worth respecting. When this summit ends, perhaps the Valoran Empire will remind you what real power looks like." Ginho did not step back. He did not blink. He simply looked into the Valoran's burning eyes and smiled slightly. "Perhaps," he said. Then he walked past Tyke as if the commander were furniture. His delegation followed without a word, Across the hall, High Speaker Mora watched the exchange with growing unease. She had seen Ginho's smile. She knew what it meant when a predator pretended to be prey. Lieutenant. Yuna walked close to Ginho as they moved toward their assigned quarters. He will cause problems, she said quietly. The Valoran delegation wants conflict. Yes, Ginho agreed. Should I contact command? Request support? Ginho shook his head. No, we are here as diplomats. We will remain diplomats unless circumstances force otherwise. If circumstances do force otherwise. Ginho was quiet for a moment. They passed through a corridor lined with windows that showed the endless stars outside. His reflection looked tired, old. Then we do what we must, he said. But let us hope it does not come to that. The galaxy is not ready to see what Earth keeps hidden. I am not sure it ever will be, Yuna nodded, but her hand unconsciously moved to her side, where a soldier might carry a weapon. There was nothing there. But the movement itself told a story of training that went deeper than diplomat school, a story of skills that a simple age should not possess. Behind them, far behind Commander Tyke, was still laughing with his officers. He called humans cowards. He called them weak. He made plans to humiliate them further during the summit. High Speaker Mora watched it all and said nothing. But in her private thoughts, she composed a message to her government. A warning. The humans came unarmed, she wrote. They came soft and smiling and alone. I do not know why. But I know this much. Any species that survives its own history of violence does not forget how to use it. Watch them carefully. And whatever you do not give them a reason to show us what they are hiding. She sent the message. Then she went to her quarters to pray to gods she barely believed in anymore. Something was coming. She could feel it in her old bones, and she was afraid. The second day of the summit began with formal negotiations. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the Great Hall. It's a circular room with seats arranged like a rising bowl around a central speaking platform. Holographic displays showed maps of contested space, trade routes, and border disputes that had lasted for generations. Ambassador Park Jin-ho sat in the human section with his small team. They listened. They took notes. They spoke only when asked direct questions. The other delegations barely noticed them. Commander Tyke noticed. He made sure everyone else noticed too. The matter of the Outer Rim territories requires military consideration. Tyke announced during a discussion of border security. The Valoran Empire proposes a joint patrol force. All species with claims in the region should contribute warships. He paused and looked directly at the human delegation. All species that have warships, of course. Laughter rippled through parts of the hall. Jinho's expression did not change. During a break in negotiations, the delegation scattered to private meeting rooms and observation decks. Dr. Heian stood alone by a window, watching a distant nebula paint colors across the darkness. She was not truly alone for long. Ambassador Lyra of the Celestine Union approached with quiet steps. She was tall and thin, with silver skin and eyes that held genuine warmth. The Celestine were known as peacekeepers, philosophers, the gentle voice of reason in galactic politics. May I join you? Lyra asked. Heian nodded. Of course, Ambassador. They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Lyra spoke the question that seemed to burn in everyone's mind. Why does Earth never bring its military to these summits? Heian turned to look at her. Why do you ask? Because I cannot understand it, Lyra admitted. The Valorans see it as weakness. The Bloodborne see it as invitation. But I have studied your species, Dr. Heian. I have read your history. She paused. I know what humans are capable of. Heian was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. We are not hiding our strength because we are ashamed of having it, she said. We hide it because we are ashamed of what it can do. What it has done, what it might do again, if we are not careful. Lyra frowned. I do not understand. Your species achieved peace through enlightenment, Heian said. The Valorans achieved it through conquest and order. The Syndicate achieved it through mental unity.
Oh.
She looked back at the nebula. Humans achieved peace through exhaustion. We fought so many wars, killed so many of our own kind, came so close to extinction so many times that eventually we simply grew tired of death. That does not explain why you hide your military, doesn't it? Heian smiled sadly. Our soldiers are not warriors seeking glory, Ambassador. They are survivors of a species that tried to destroy itself. They carry that memory in their blood. They are trained not to fight with honor, but to end conflicts as quickly and completely as possible. She met Lyra's eyes. When humans go to war, we do not fight to win. We fight to make sure there is nothing left to fight again. Lyra felt a chill move through her silver body. That sounds like something terrible, Heian finished. Yes, it is. That is why we come to peace summits with open hands and kind words. Because we know what our closed fists can do. Across the station, in a dark corner of the Bloodborne delegation's quarters, Warlord Kren was having a very different conversation. Kren was massive, even by Bloodborne standards. His gray skin was covered in scars that told the story of 100 battles won. His eyes were black pits that held no mercy. The humans are weak, one of his advisors said. Their territory is rich. Their borders are undefended. If we struck now, during the summit, while their attention is elsewhere, the summit is sacred ground, another advisor warned. To attack during peace talks would turn every species against us. Kren smiled, showing teeth filed to sharp points. Not if we are clever. Not if it looks like an accident. Or self-defense. He leaned forward. Send word to our assassins. I want the human delegation dead before the third day begins. Make it look like they provoked us. Make it look like they attacked first. And if they truly have hidden strength, Kren laughed. Look at them. 5 soft creatures in gray clothes. No weapons. No guards. No ships in orbit. Whatever strength they once had, they have forgotten how to use it. He stood and stretched his scarred arms. Humans are prey that forgot they were being hunted. Tonight, we remind them. The assassins moved into position during the night cycle. 6 of them, Bloodborne's finest killers, slipping through maintenance tunnels and security blind spots. They carried blades and needles, weapons that killed silently. Commander Tyke knew about the plan. His spies had intercepted the orders. He could have warned the humans. He could have alerted station security. Instead, he ordered his death guard to stand down and watch. Let the Bloodborne do what they wish, he told his second-in-command. If the humans die, we learn they were truly weak. If they survive, he paused, curious despite himself. Then perhaps we learn something more interesting. In the human quarters, Ambassador Park Jin-ho sat alone in his room. He was reading reports from Earth, messages from his family, ordinary things that reminded him of home. The station hummed quietly around him. Lieutenant Yuna knocked and entered. Sir, I have detected unusual movement in the maintenance tunnels near our section. 6 heat signatures. Moving in formation. Jinho set down his tablet. His face remained calm, but something shifted in his eyes. Something old. Something cold. How long until they reach us? 12 minutes. Jinho closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like a man praying. Or perhaps a man apologizing in advance. Wake the others, he said quietly. Prepare for contact. Non-lethal if possible, but survival is priority. Yuna hesitated. Sir, there are 6 of them. We are unarmed. Jinho opened his eyes. The warmth was gone from them now. What remained was something that made Yuna, despite all her training, take a small step back. We are never unarmed, Lieutenant, he said. We just prefer to pretend otherwise. He stood and straightened his gray suit. Seems the galaxy wants to know what Earth keeps hidden, he said. I had hoped to spare them, but some lessons must be learned the hard way. Outside their quarters, the Bloodborne assassins checked their weapons one final time. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The first assassin came through the ventilation shaft like a shadow. He had killed 43 targets in his career. Diplomats, generals, even a planetary governor once. None of them had ever seen him coming. He dropped into the human quarters without a sound. His blade was ready. His target, The young female, called Yuna, stood with her back to him near the far wall. Easy kill. He moved forward, blade rising for the strike. In his mind, she was already dead. Why? Una turned. What happened next took less than 2 seconds. The assassin's blade hand was caught, twisted, and broken with a sound like dry wood snapping. His own weapon was pulled from his grip and pressed against his throat. A knee drove into his chest with enough force to crack 3 ribs. He hit the ground, unable to breathe, unable to scream, barely able to understand what had happened. Una stood over him. Her face was calm. Her breathing was normal. She had not even broken a sweat. Where are the others? She asked quietly. The assassin tried to reach for a hidden knife with his unbroken hand. Una stepped on his wrist, pinning it to the floor. She applied pressure. Bones began to grind. I asked a question, she said. 2 more assassins burst through the main door. They saw their comrade on the ground and the small human woman standing over him. They attacked together, blades flashing in the dim light. Dr. Hayen moved from behind a corner. She was not young, not athletic, not dangerous in any way that made sense. But she moved between the 2 attackers like water flowing around stones. Her hands touched pressure points, nerve clusters, weak spots that every species shared. In 3 heartbeats, both assassins were on the ground, conscious but completely paralyzed. 3 down, Hayen said. 3 more coming. Ambassador Park Jin-ho stepped out of his room. He had removed his gray jacket. Underneath, his body was lean and marked with old scars that told stories no diplomat should have. The station's security systems have been disabled in this section, he said. The Bloodborne planned this well. No one is coming to help us. Then we help ourselves, Una replied. The remaining 3 assassins arrived together. They were the best of the group, the veterans, the ones who had never failed. They took one look at their fallen comrades and realized something had gone terribly wrong. One of them, the largest, stepped forward. What are you? He growled. Ginho met his eyes. We are diplomats. We came here for peace. You came here for murder. He rolled his shoulders slowly, old muscles remembering old movements. You made a mistake. The fight lasted 11 seconds. When it ended, all 6 bloodborne assassins were alive, but broken. Arms hung at wrong angles. Legs would not support weight. Several would never walk properly again. Lieutenant Una was breathing slightly harder now. There was blood on her knuckles, none of it hers. Sir, she said, there will be more. Warlord Kren will not accept this failure. And when the other delegations learn what happened here, questions will be asked. Ginho nodded slowly. He looked at the groaning assassins, at a small team of so-called diplomats, at the simple gray quarters that now looked like a battlefield. You are right, he said. This cannot be contained. The situation has escalated beyond diplomatic solutions. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like an ordinary communication unit, the kind anyone might carry. But when he activated it, his team went very still. Even Dr. Hayen, calm and scholarly Hayen, showed fear in her eyes. Sir, she whispered, are you certain? No, Jinho admitted, but I see no other choice. He pressed a button and spoke clearly. This is Ambassador Park Jin-ho of Earth. Authorization. Black Sun, Priority 1. We need immediate extraction and protection. Hostile action confirmed. Requesting full response. A voice answered, cold and professional. Authorization confirmed. Fleet is en route. 8 to 7 minutes. Ginho closed the device. His hand was trembling slightly. What have you done? The lead assassin groaned from the floor. Who did you call? Jinho did not answer. He simply walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Across the station, Commander Tyke received an urgent report from his flagship. His officers were panicked, their voices overlapping with confusion and fear. Commander, we have detected an incoming fleet. Tyke frowned. Which species? What formation? Unknown, Commander. They are not using standard FTL. The readings make no sense. It is like space itself is being torn open. Show me. The holographic display activated. Tyke saw his own fleet in orbit around Convergence Prime. He saw the other delegation ships, ranged in their proud formations. And then he saw something else. A wound in reality. A tear in the fabric of space. Something was coming through, and it was not coming gently. High Speaker Mora watched from her own quarters. Her old heart beat painfully in her chest. She had feared this moment for decades. So she whispered to herself, "They finally called them. The humans finally showed us what they were hiding." The tear in space grew wider. Through it came ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Black metal. No decorations. No symbols of pride or honor. These were not vessels built to impress. They were built to destroy. The largest ship was 3 kilometers long. Its hull was covered in scars from battles that predated first contact with every other species. It carried weapons that had been designed by a species fighting for survival against itself. Weapons refined through centuries of the most brutal warfare in known history. Its name was Sunbreaker. And it was just the beginning. Tyke stared at the display. His scales had gone pale. His death guard shifted nervously behind him. "That is impossible," he said. "Where did this come from? How did we not know?" His tactical officer answered with a shaking voice, "Commander, we have identified the fleet configuration. It matches no known military doctrine." Paused. Except one. An old Earth doctrine from their pre-space era. It was called Total War. Tyke had never heard the term before, but somehow hearing it made his blood run cold. On every screen in Convergence Prime, a face appeared. An older human man with tired eyes and gray hair cut short. His uniform was black and bore only a single symbol, the image of a burning sun. "This is General Do-Yan of Earth's 1st Expeditionary Force," he said. His voice was quiet but carried the weight of absolute authority. "The station designated Convergence Prime is now under Earth's protection. Any hostile action against our delegation will be considered an act of war." "Act?" The silence was absolute. "You have 60 seconds to stand down. Do not test us, please." That last word, please. It was not a threat. It was a warning. An appeal. It was the sound of someone who knew exactly what would happen next if the galaxy did not listen. And for the first time in his long career, Commander Tyke felt something he had never felt before. Real fear. General Do-Yan watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Sunbreaker. Around him, his crew moved with quiet efficiency. No shouting. No excitement. Just professionals doing a job they had trained their entire lives for. "Status report," he said. "All delegations are holding position, General. The Valoran flagship has raised shields, but has not powered weapons. The Bloodborne fleet is attempting to retreat to FTL distance." The officer paused. "They will not make it in time." Do-Yan nodded. "Let them try. Do not fire unless fired upon. We are here to protect, not to conquer." On Convergence Prime, Commander Tyke stood frozen in the middle of his quarters. The 60-second countdown was passing. His death guard waited for orders. His officers demanded instructions. But Tyke could not move. He was watching his tactical display. Watching the human fleet spread into formation around the station. Each ship moved with perfect coordination like fingers of a single hand. No wasted motion. No gaps in coverage. In 30 seconds, the humans had achieved complete tactical superiority over every other fleet in the system. 30 seconds, Commander, his second officer said urgently. "Your orders." Tyke found his voice. "Stand down. All units stand down." "But Commander, if we strike first, we will die," Tyke said flatly. "Look at their formation. Look at their weapon signatures. They have been planning this response for longer than we have been, a spacefaring species. We never had a chance." Not everyone listened. The Bloodborne cruiser Bone Collector opened fire. Its captain, loyal to Warlord Kren, believed that aggression could overcome any obstacle. He targeted the nearest human vessel, a small escort ship that looked almost fragile compared to his warship. The human ship did not dodge. It did not raise shields. It simply fired back. One shot. The bone collector came apart like a sandcastle hit by a wave. Not an explosion, disintegration. The vessel was there, and then it was not. 300 bloodborne warriors, gone in a flash of light that lasted less than a second. The human escort ship continued its patrol as if nothing had happened. Silence fell across every communication channel in the system. Every species, every delegation, every captain and commander stared at their displays in horror. They had just witnessed a warship destroyed by a single shot from what appeared to be a support vessel. General. Doyen's voice returned to the open channel. He sounded sad. I asked you not to test us, he said quietly. I ask you to stand down. Why does no one ever listen? On Convergence Prime, things were moving quickly. Human soldiers had appeared inside the station. No one saw them arrive. No one detected their transports. One moment, the corridors were empty. The next, they were filled with figures in unmarked black armor, the Valoran Death Guard. The most feared warriors in 3 sectors found themselves surrounded in their own quarters. The humans did not attack. They simply stood in formation, weapons ready, waiting. One human soldier stepped forward and removed his helmet. He was young, perhaps 20 standard years, with a calm face and tired eyes. His name tag read Corporal Minho. Commander Tyke, he said politely. Please order your death guard to lower their weapons. We do not wish to harm anyone, but we will protect ourselves if necessary. Tyke stared at the young human. How did you get in here? Our security systems detected nothing. Minho almost smiled. With respect, Commander, your security systems were designed to detect threats you understood. We are not that kind of threat. What kind of threat are you? The kind that does not want to fight, Minho said, but has learned how to end fights very quickly when there is no other choice. Slowly, one by one, the Death Guard lowered their weapons. They had been trained since birth to show no fear, but training could not overcome what their instincts were screaming. These humans were predators wearing the masks of prey. High Speaker Mora requested and received permission to visit the human quarters. She wanted to understand. She needed to understand. Ambassador Park Jin-ho met her at the door. His gray suit was blood-stained now, but his manner was as calm as ever. High Speaker, he said. Thank you for coming. I needed to see for myself, Mora replied. I needed to know if the old reports were true. She looked past him at the captured assassins, still groaning on the floor. At Lieutenant Yuna, standing guard with hands that had broken warriors twice her size. At Dr. Heian, gentle Heian, who had disabled trained killers with touches that looked almost medical. Mora whispered, You are diplomats. Scholars, how can you do this? Jin-ho led her to a window. Outside, the sunbreaker hung in space, like a sleeping predator. Do you know what total war means, High Speaker? I have heard the term today for the first time. Jin-ho nodded slowly. Before we reached the stars, humans fought each other constantly. At first we fought like other species, soldiers against soldiers, territory against territory. But then we changed. We stopped limiting war to battlefields. We brought it to cities, to families, to children. We built weapons that could end civilizations in hours. We nearly destroyed our own world not once but many times. He turned to look at her with ancient eyes. The soldiers you see here are not warriors in the way you understand warriors. They are the descendants of generations that survived the most brutal conflicts imaginable. Every human carries the memory of those wars in their blood. We do not fight for honor or glory. We fight to survive. And when we fight to survive, we hold nothing back. Then why hide this? Mora asked. Why pretend to be weak? Because we are not proud of what we can do, Jin-ho said simply. We are terrified of it. Every human soldier is trained to end conflict as quickly as possible because we enjoy destruction, but because we know that the longer a war lasts, the worse we become. We do not want the galaxy to see what humanity looks like when we truly go to war. He looked back at the Sunbreaker. Came to this summit with open hands because we wanted peace. We hid our military because we wanted everyone else to feel safe. We allowed Commander Tyke to mock us because his contempt was harmless. His voice hardened slightly. But Warlord Kren chose violence. He sent assassins to murder us in our sleep. And now the galaxy will learn what Earth has been protecting them from. Protecting them? Mora repeated. You think you were protecting us? Yes, Jinho said. Because the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a species that knows how to wage war. It is a species that has mastered war and learned to hate itself for it. We fight better than anyone, High Speaker, because we have practiced on ourselves for 10,000 years. He smiled, and it was the saddest smile Mora had ever seen. You were never in danger from human weakness. You were always in danger from human strength. And now, thanks to the Bloodborne, you finally get to see it. Outside, the human fleet held position, silent, patient, ready, waiting to see if the galaxy had learned its lesson. The summit resumed 3 days after the incident. The Bloodborne delegation had been confined to their quarters under human guard. Their assassins were in medical care, alive but broken. Their cruiser was nothing but dust and memory. Warlord Kren sat in chains before the assembled delegations. His black eyes, once filled with cruel confidence, now stared at the floor. He had been a conqueror of 6 star systems. He had never known defeat until now. He violated the sacred peace of Convergence Prime, High Speaker Mora declared. Her voice carried the weight of galactic law. You sent assassins against a fellow delegation. You ordered an unprovoked attack. The evidence is clear. The punishment is death. Kren lifted his head. Some spark of his old pride remained. Demand trial by combat, he growled. The ancient right. Let me face my accusers in honorable battle. If I win, I go free. If I lose, my life is forfeit, the assembled delegations murmured. Trial by combat was an old tradition, rarely invoked, but still respected. Many species had practiced it in their warrior past. Ambassador Park Jin-ho stood. Earth accepts.
Silence fell.
Every eye turned to the human delegation. General Doyon, who had come down to the station after the crisis ended, leaned close to Ginho and whispered, Are you certain? This could escalate tensions further. It will end them, Jinho replied quietly. The galaxy needs to see this. They need to understand completely. The combat took place in the station's central arena, a space usually used for ceremonies and celebrations. Now it held 2 figures, Warlord Kren, unchained and armed with traditional Bloodborne weapons, and Sergeant Sujin of Earth's Logistics Division. Sujin was small. She stood barely 1.5 meters tall, with a round face and gentle eyes. She wore no armor. She carried no weapons. She had volunteered for this duty with a quiet nod, as if accepting an unpleasant chore. Commander Tyke watched from the observation gallery. He had requested a front-row seat. He needed to understand. That female is a logistics officer, he said to his aide. She moves supplies. She files paperwork. Why would the humans send her against their greatest enemy's champion? His aide had no answer. Kren circled Sujin with predatory patience. He was twice her size. His weapons had killed hundreds. His body was a machine built for violence. Little human, he sneered. I will make this quick. 1 clean death. More mercy than your kind deserves. Sujin bowed politely. Thank you. I hope this will not take long. I have inventory reports to finish. Kren roared and attacked. The fight lasted 4 seconds. What happened in those 4 seconds would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for generations. Sujin did not block Kren's attacks. She was never where they landed. She moved like water, like wind, like something that existed between moments rather than within them. 3 strikes. That was all she used. The first broke Kren's weapon arm at the elbow. The second collapsed his knee. The third, a gentle-looking tap to his throat, dropped him to the ground, unable to breathe or move. Sujin stood over him with the same calm expression she had worn throughout. She was not breathing hard. She had not broken a sweat. I am sorry, she said quietly. I tried to be gentle. Kren could not respond. He could barely see. The greatest warrior of the Bloodborne Pact had been defeated by a woman who managed inventory. The arena was silent. Then High Speaker Mora spoke the words required by tradition. The combat is concluded. Earth is victorious. Justice is served. Later, after Kren had been taken to medical care, and the delegations had scattered to process what they had witnessed, Commander Tyke found Ambassador Park Jin-ho alone on an observation deck. The Valoran's arrogance was gone. In its place was something new respect mixed with fear and genuine curiosity. "I must know," Tyke said quietly. How did your species become this? You are young. You have been in space for barely 2 centuries. Yet you fight like nothing we have ever seen." Jin-ho was silent for a long moment. He watched the stars, his reflection ghost-like in the window. "We spent 10,000 years killing each other," he finally said. "We perfected it. We made it into science. We built weapons that could burn cities in seconds, and devices that could poison entire continents. We put the power to end worlds into the hands of teenagers." He turned to look at Tyke. "You think we are warriors?" "We are not. Warriors seek glory. They follow codes of honor. They celebrate their victories." His voice grew heavy. "Humans do none of those things. We are survivors of a war that never truly ended a war against ourselves. Every soldier you see carries the memory of millions of dead. Not enemies. Family, neighbors, children. We killed our own kind on scales you cannot imagine. Then why continue?" Tyke asked. "Why not abandon violence entirely?" "Because we learned something terrible," Jin-ho said. "We learned that the capacity for violence cannot be forgotten. It can only be controlled. We hide our military not because we are ashamed of being warriors, but because we know what happens when we stop holding back. We become something else. Something that does not stop until the threat is completely destroyed." He smiled sadly. "Called us cowards, Commander. You said we had no military worth fearing. The truth is the opposite. We have a military so effective, so brutal, so refined by centuries of practice against ourselves, that showing it destabilizes everything around us. We came to this summit unarmed because we wanted peace, because we know better than anyone the cost of war." Tyke stood in silence for a long time. "Will you ever show your true strength openly?" he finally asked. "I hope not," Jin-ho said. "I hope every summit, every negotiation, every treaty succeeds. Because if if the galaxy truly forces us to fight, then we will show you everything. And no one, not even us, wants to see what that looks like." The summit ended. Earth's fleet vanished as quietly as it had arrived. The delegations returned to their homeworlds with new reports, new fears, and a new understanding of the small gray species that sat quietly in the back of the room. Earth never brought its military to peace summits. Now, the galaxy understood why peace was what humans wanted most. They fought for it, argued for it, sacrificed for it, because they knew better than any species in the universe. What happened when peace failed? They had learned on themselves, and they would do anything to make sure those lessons never had to be taught. Again, in her final report to the Syndicate Council, High Speaker Mora wrote a single conclusion: the humans are not dangerous because they are violent. They are dangerous because they hate their own violence and have learned to use it anyway. If you must deal with them, deal honestly. If you must fight them, do not. Because they will not stop until there is nothing left to fight, and they will hate themselves for every moment of it. That, perhaps, was the most terrifying thing of all.